Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I got some really interesting topic today, and we're going to talk about why starter homes are probably not going to be in your future if you're thinking about buying one, unless you're going to buy it with a few other people. So I've been reading a little bit about starter homes lately, and me and Allison, when we got married and we moved from the trailer park to Lindsay Lane, we bought a starter home that was for $570,000, and it was a fixer-upper. And that was only due to her dad, who actually helped us out buying, not buying the house, but actually remodeling. So what's really key is when you buy a starter home is to find something that you can buy that's affordable and doesn't rob you from all your cash and make you house poor. Because even though it might appreciate, it might not appreciate. So talking about betting on the housing market or betting against it, you don't want to wrap up all your assets just into one asset class. So you want to diversify, right? And so I've been reading a lot about how people do it now. So it's funny, I've been talking to some people lately, and they've been saying that what they're doing is that they're buying it with friends, and they've known them for a long time and they want to live together. So they'll pull the credit together, they'll pull the down payment together, and they all individually qualify to buy a house. So that is also very, very dangerous. It's cool because you can actually make the payments, and you can basically buy a 3 times bigger house with your friends because you have 3 times the income. But what's also really, really bad is that you're going to share the responsibilities. So if one of your friends thinks it's great to have a meth lab in the basement, and he's going to do that because he's a homeowner, he's going to do that and doesn't need your approval. So the problem is then all 3 are on the hook. That's why it's not that great of an idea. But if you're going to do a business or something out of your house with your friends, might be a good idea, might not be. But I would not recommend doing that for everybody, because friendships can turn sour really quick over money. So let's say the AC breaks and you got to spend $15,000 trying to buy a new air conditioning. Who is going to have, $15,000? So if you're 3 people, you need to have $5,000 each to cover that. And yes, it's worse when you're by yourself, but you got to ask somebody else for money. And then there's the question of utilities, right? So when you're going to have a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, because that's what you need with 3 bathrooms, right? And they're going to say, hey, I want the AC at 69. And you're in Vegas and you don't have solar, the energy bill is going to be $700. So how do you split that all up? So then you got to say, hey, everybody's going to pay $300 or $200 for the energy bill. And so that's got to be in somebody's name. And so when you're inviting stuff like that into your life, where your friends are going to become basically your business partners, because a house is an asset, and an asset you can take money out, you can loan against, you can do a whole bunch of things with that money. So when you're going to look at buying a house with 3 of your friends because you can't qualify for a starter home, you're basically going to get tossed into this marriage with your 3 best friends, and you're going to be on the hook. You're going to be on the hook for whatever happens. So you need to make sure that if your buddy's going to pay the mortgage, that he actually really pays it. Because I've also been reading that 2 people paid it and the 3rd one didn't, and they didn't notice till the late notices came in, and this other guy didn't. So now you're going to get into a clinch where you're going to have to say, hey, you need to pay up, buddy. And having conversations like that is so difficult. I wouldn't want it, and I don't know if you do, but let me know in the comments below what you think. But I could not buy a home with friends of mine, because if they're going to be on the title of the home and you're not married to them, where it's like a legal binding contract, you're going to engage in a business. And with businesses, there's profit and losses. So let's say one of your friends gets this new job offer from tech company in another state and needs to move out. He's going to say, hey, I want my share out of the title, out of the house, out of the loan. So what does he want? He basically wants money. So how do you do that? Well, you got to get an assessor, you got to get an appraisal, and you got to pay him out and refinance. So let's say you've bought the house 3 years ago with your friends, and you bought it at 3%. And all of a sudden now the house is worth $1 million, and you're at 3% mortgage. And so now you can't really refinance, so you need to take out, because when you refinance now you're at 7. So that's going to make it unaffordable for everybody. But you need to take him off the loan. So how do you do that? Well, you got to either find a way to cover that or take him off the loan and still be qualifying for it. If you're a mortgage broker or a mortgage lender, let me know in the comments for people that try to do that right now. Maybe help them out. And if that's not the case and you can't do it, you got to sell. So when you're going to have to sell, basically one of your friends was an asshole and he left you guys and he left the 2 other people, and now you basically got to rent again. Or you somehow got to find a way how to come up with the money that's owed to him. So when you're going to engage in some type of business contract, it doesn't even have to be just about buying a house. You're going to be on the hook for profits and losses. So when I've owned businesses before, I'd love having a business partner. For me, it's not about really the profits. I love paying out profits, and it doesn't bug me when my business partner gets a huge chunk of money, because what I've also had happen is that my business partner had to pony up tens of thousands of dollars to get out of leases. So that is really, really convenient. When we owned the yogurt store and we tried to get out of that lease, we had to write a check for it. And oh my gosh, it was nice that somebody paid half of that, and I didn't have to pay, and I didn't have to sell assets to pay for a liability. And when you're trying to buy a starter home, what I would look for is find the cheapest house in your area and somehow try to make it work. Yes, you're probably going to get rats infestations. You're probably going to get a bunch of other stuff in the house that you do not want, like critters, cockroaches, a whole bunch, termites, buying it from a hoarder like we did. That is all okay because it's your starter home. You do not need to have the best house starting off. I know it's like, oh my gosh, I want marble floors and I want this and I want that. But that's not obtainable for most people, because buying $1 million house comes with huge extra costs. So when you're gonna, let me take my house for example. So we're doing some remodeling, and guess what? Who's gonna decide what you're gonna put in there? Maybe your friend says, oh, we don't need a remodel, we don't need a new water heater. That one still works fine, but the water heater costs $1,000, and you're like, I don't want to pay $1,000 because my 2 other roommates are gonna use it too. So you need to have almost a lawyer draft up a contract before you engage in buying a house with your friends, and have clauses in there for what you're going to do when you're going to sell, what you're going to do when somebody wants to move out, what are you going to do if somebody's not paying. And going into a business deal or a marriage with a lawyer already set up from the gate, it's not a way how you want to approach life, at least not me. So when you want to get a house and you're going to tell your friend, hey, let's have a lawyer draft up here an agreement, I don't know if I would buy that house with my buddy then, because we're already engaging in lawyer talks. And when somebody brings up lawyers right from the get-go, my alarm light's already going to go off and say, man, he's already talking about lawyers now. What if I need out, or I want to sell it, or want to move in with my girlfriend, or do something else? What is he going to say then? Is he going to sue me for it, or do some other crazy stuff? And that is just not how I would want to approach it. If you do, let me know in the comments below. I'm super interested to hear what you guys are thinking or saying about this topic, because even though I went through Zillow listings here in a little bit, and I could not find a lot of starter homes. Unfortunately, people are not selling starter homes at a reasonable prices where first-time home buyers can actually afford buying it. And when you're gonna buy a starter home, you're gonna buy it in a shittier area now, or in an upcoming area, so to speak. And I think that's not a very lucrative thing, because you can rent a really nice apartment for $2,500 and be just as good off as buying a house, but you're just not gaining the equity. But I also read a study today that said if you're buying a house right now, you're paying so much more in interest with 7% than you did with 3%. So over the years of paying off the loan with a 3% loan, you are spending like 25% on interest payments. And with 7%, it was almost like 40-something% that you're paying on interest only. So I get why people say, oh, you need to do home ownership, but home ownership isn't as easy and as black and white as people might think it is. So what do I recommend? Well, I would actually say live below your means, rent a place, and save up a down payment and buy a condo, buy a townhouse, and then rent that out and become a landlord. But even that, in a place like San Francisco or New York, you got to bring like $1 million to the table. And it is not feasible to bring $1 million to the table, because you can invest that in the stock market and be way better off than actually putting in a house. Because when you buy a condo in New York, I doubt it's going to increase in value that much. So that was it for this video. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.